So gamers and geeks and accessibility advocates and even casual lurkers in the game industry should know that we got some big news recently that could make gaming more accessible than ever before. The Entertainment Software Association, or the ESA, just rolled out a massive industry-wide initiative that could literally change how we buy and play games. It is called the Accessible Games Initiative. It's all about giving players a clear, standardized way to know what accessibility features a game actually has. It sounds pretty simple and straightforward, but it is actually a huge deal for a lot of gamers out there. So today we're going to be taking a look at it, breaking it down, what it means, who's involved, what games already do this well, and how it fits into our concept of doing good, doing no harm, and striving to grow here at Checkpoint Church. And to help me talk about it is going to be one of our level 2 members, DGC. So welcome in to DGC. Are you involved in this? Are you curious about, I know you brought this up as our theme for tonight. So what has you excited?
Yes. So this very much resonates with me as for someone who has certain disabilities that prevent me from playing games. One of those being my vision.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I ended up inheriting a disease, inheriting retinitis pigmentosa, which unfortunately results in my eyesight getting pretty worse. And over the years, it's been so difficult for me to even play certain games. So having some sort of accessibility for someone like me is just incredible. And not just like here for like vision problems, but I know there are people who have problems hearing. So I know that works very well for those who have those types of.
Yeah, it covers a wide gamut of things. And for those of you that have followed Able Gamers, or maybe you've been a part of Checkpoint for a while and you know about Steve Spawn's work, there really is a lot that has gone into this, but it has been a hard pressed issue going forward. And so it's been hard for people to get the grassroots to kind of have charities and raise funds so that they can get the word out there and make a real press. But at this point, we have a really large entity making the push. So the basics of this is that the ESA, this is the group behind E3, ESRB ratings, like all sorts of stuff, have announced this accessibility tagging system just recently at GDC, or the Game Developers Conference. Essentially, it is going to be a set of labels, 24 labels, that tell you what kind of accessibility features a game has. So some of these might include, kind of like DGC mentioned, right, like narrated menus or larger text, or for people that use different controllers, full button remapping, colorblind modes, stuff like saving anytime so you don't lose your progress for people that maybe have anxiety or just busy lives or would just need some kind of ability like that. The point is that instead of digging through a game's settings or watching an hour-long review, which is how this has been done heretofore, is you just kind of hope that they provide accessible settings and only find out after somebody does a dive into it. The ESA is hoping that now you can see exactly what a game supports right on the digital store page or packaging. It's not just one company that's going to be pushing this. Because it's the ESA putting their energy behind this, it's a coalition of gaming giants that have signed in on this thing. You have Microsoft and Sony, Nintendo and EA, Ubisoft, Riot Games, Square Enix, Warner Brothers. It's like everybody in the Justice League of gaming is behind this one thing. They're all putting their energy into this initiative, promising to do it, push the initiative forward, and help provide spaces for people to be aware of these things. So it goes along with a kind of ESRB, but instead of just saying what is involved that may be problematic, this is saying what's involved in this game to make it more accessible, to make it better for more gamers to play. And maybe this seems like a kind of like duh moment, like why didn't we do this years ago? But you have to understand that it takes time to move anything, any kind of rock forward in the bureaucracy and in the behemoth of a system. And a lot of people for a long time have really just been trying to find out if they can even play the game at all, and eventually just having to choose to not even play a game in the first place. And so DGC, you mentioned a little bit of that already, but are there any games that you've had to just like turn away from because you just simply cannot play them?
Easy shooters and 3D platformers
Mm,
and racing games.
yeah, I can imagine. And I think that,
And also 2D platformers as well.
yeah, just some of the depth issues, I'm sure, have to go along with
Hmm.
that. And it can be really challenging whenever you're super excited about a game and you buy it and you learn that they don't have whatever features might be needed. So this is hopefully going to make it, not only is it going to make it more aware of games that are doing this right, but because you have all of these behemoths backing it and saying they will use it, I'm hoping that will encourage developers, and especially AAA developers, to be more intentional about including these matters of accessibility, so that we'll get even more games that get these ratings, that get these tags, and get approved. So speaking of that, some of the games that are already doing this well, like I mentioned, one of the biggest things about this system is that it's not just adding the new features, it's making it easier to find existing ones and setting a precedent so that other games will do it going forward. But this has been a thing, a hallmark of the Game Awards. They have been championing accessibility in one of their awards that is focused specifically on games that are taking initiative steps forward towards accessibility. And so you can consider The Last of Us Part 2. That's one game that kind of was given a gold standard award of accessibility. It had fully narrated menus. It had haptic feedback for dialogue so that deaf players can feel the emotions. Extensive colorblind, high contrast modes. Whenever you went to the menu, there were over 60 settings that you could fine tune how you might experience the game. And this was because Neil Druckmann wanted people to experience the story in whatever way they might be able to interact with, whatever method they might have to engage with it. That was what was more important than some kind of challenge mode. Or you have something like Forza Horizon 5 with, again, remappable controls, game speed adjustment, which would be huge, narrated menus, colorblind friendly HUD, and sign language interpreters for cutscenes. That was a pretty big deal for that one. Madden 24, which lets you control the whole game using only simple button presses, reads out all the menus. It is there are a lot of people that are doing this in some really interesting ways. And of course, like I said, the Game Awards has been acknowledging them. DGC, have you ever played a game that has had like a standout accessibility setting for you that you have utilized?
It was back in with Psychonauts 2. As I said before, I am not able to play 3D platformers all that much anymore. However,
Mhm.
they had some features in there that allowed me to be able to play it, which is awesome because that game has a really good story and also deals like with that's I would deals with psychology, with is one of my favorite fields of learning about.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that it's important for us to hear good stories and good instances of how, you were able to interact, or people have been able to interact with games in a more accessible way, because there has been pushback. There have been people that maybe don't agree with this, maybe more purists behind the ludology of the thing that think that it's the actual playing of the game that makes the difference. And so when it comes to the industry, there are a lot of folks that are very excited about accessibility issues. And there are a lot of advocates who have really been fighting for this for a while because there is pushback. There's concerns about, will the developers actually take the cue? Like, will they pick up the note that has been dropped and make their games more accessible? There's also the issue of indie games where they just don't have the team necessarily to apply a lot of accessibility things into their game. Like, think about it like a Stardew, where it's one guy until it got big enough that he could probably afford people to do more of that accessibility work. And so I can speak for myself. I'm not a, game dev in that light, but even when it comes to things with Checkpoint, there are days where it's like, if I want to add metadata to pictures, that's going to take more time out of my whatever I'm doing. And I've only got so much time to do whatever needs to be done. So accessibility gets harder for more independent people. And so that adds in some issues. And so having tools built into things so that they might be able to be more naturally accessible is pretty huge. And they pivot and push the way forward. And this really gets into what we believe here at Checkpoint Church, which is, of course, our 3 rules of doing good, doing no harm, and striving to grow. And so we believe that this is a work, that accessibility is a work of doing good. It is making gaming more inclusive, making it more available for people to experience the stories that I believe are the real reason that I play games. And so it allows for intentional efforts to be made for people to be included in the stories being told instead of excluded from the stories being told. They get to experience the community that comes along with games instead of feeling like they had to be ostracized for yet another thing. So I see this as a good example of how we're doing good and how good is being done in the space. doing no harm. I think that I mentioned earlier that there have been historically people that have done this work, like they've played through a game just to find out how accessible it is. And then they put it out on their website or on their YouTube video so that people who need to know that information can know that information without having to buy the games for themselves. So now, instead of having to worry about that, we have the ESA, who is already in the trenches of doing this kind of work whenever it comes to trigger warnings and that kind of thing. Now they're also going to be there providing a standardized form of labels and tags that are not going to be confusing, but instead be coherent across the spectrum of needs that people might have for inclusivity. And so it's stopping people from wasting money, but also stopping people from, being confused or disappointed whenever they aren't able to experience the game that they might want to. And then by striving to grow, it's a step. Like you said, like it is a step towards something. It is a way of showing the evolution that the gaming industry is taking forward. And this is important for us to note that this is a revolution that has started through grassroots. Like I mentioned Steve Spahn earlier, but I think that he's not the only one. There have been advocates that have paved the way forward, that are gamers and streamers and content creators and just ordinary people who have been pushing for a long time. And it's thrilling to see now that the industry heads and the C-suite have heard the pleas and the cries and the charity fundraisers and the streams and all that, to know that this is an initiative worth backing, worth standardizing, and worth pushing forward. So I love to see all of this for all three of those reasons. I think this is as clear cut and as an example as you can have of how we can do good, stop harm from being done, and push forward the industry. Any final thoughts from you there, DGC, before we start wrapping up on this segment?
No, I'm just glad that they're doing this. This is just incredible.
Yes, I totally agree. So if you are enjoying this segment, if you enjoyed it, we want to hear from you. I want to know what are some accessibility features that maybe you needed in a game, or an instance that you might have seen where it's been influential in changing someone's experience with a game. Do drop a comment, send us a message, tag us on socials, any of those things. We want to keep that conversation going and hear about particularly how this has been going better for you and how this pivot will make things even better in the future. And if you like what we do here at Twig, don't forget to like, subscribe, check us out on Discord. Accessibility isn't just a tag, it is a core value of what we do. Inclusivity is a part of our very culture that we're building in that space, and we love to have you build it right alongside us. So until next time, this has been our main segment. I am Nerd Pastor Nate. This has been DGC, and we will catch you in our next main segment here on Twig.